I feel like cervical cancer is a nice form of cancer. HPV doesn't show any symptoms. You just have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself by getting screened as regularly as possible. Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Tewa Onasanya, the founder of Exquisite Magazine and the Eloy Awards Foundation, and I am here live with BellaNaija, and we're talking about HPV, cervical cancer, and women's health in general.
Hi Tewa.
Hey BellaNaija.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Excited to be here.
And it's so good to have you here. I'm very sure that you've been following the BellaNaija's #StopHPV for Her campaign. It's a campaign that is aimed at raising awareness about the human papillomavirus and its very strong link to cervical cancer. Tell us, how do you feel about this campaign?
I am so excited. I feel like yes, this is happening again, especially, in October. This is happening because a lot of awareness is needed for cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is 100% preventable, yet it kills one woman every hour in Nigeria. So, as a cervical cancer prevention advocate, I am excited, I am in my element, and I am just looking forward to more people knowing about this form of cancer that is preventable and taking action as well.
Thank you very much. And you are not just a cervical cancer awareness advocate, you are also a founder of EMAC Cervical Cancer Foundation, a non-profit organization that focuses on cervical cancer awareness and its prevention, screening, and vaccination since 2010.
Yes.
Well done. So from your experience, what patterns or trends have you noticed about who is most affected by cervical cancer?
Obviously, cervical cancer affects women. And one of the big things that we realized in 2010 especially was when we did a survey in some of the local universities and around the malls, a lot of women didn't know that they had a cervix. Some, the younger women. And then women will also say to us that, oh, does cervical cancer affect me as a woman? And we're like, you're a woman, you have a cervix. So the awareness then about even women knowing their body parts was quite low. So that was a big thing for us. And we're like, okay, if women don't even know they have a cervix, how will they know that cervical cancer affects them? That is one of the reasons why we have so many deaths relating to that. And even the ones that do know about cervical cancer have never been screened. They didn't even know that there were screening practices. And the people that do know that there are screening practices are not being screened. Because they were like, oh, when I go abroad on holiday, I'll do my screening. Oh, I went last time and I forgot to do it. So people are not really taking it seriously. And that's a big thing. So the women who are most affected are women who are of age and have, well, not necessarily of age, but who are women who have had intimate relations.
So now we have established that ignorance, not knowing that you have a cervix and all of that, it is noticed among people who are mostly affected by cervical cancer. And I'm sure that there are some common misconceptions you've heard too about cervical cancer among parents and young girls. What are some of these common misconceptions about cervical cancer that you often encounter among parents and young girls?
Wow, do we have all day? There's so many misconceptions amongst parents, amongst young girls, amongst older ladies as well. So amongst parents, let's take this first. Some parents believe that taking the HPV vaccine is going to have a negative effect on their children. I can categorically tell you, my daughter has taken the vaccine. I mean, she's 21 now. She took the vaccine when she was 15 and nothing's happened to her. It's a preventative method. I was talking earlier about the fact that cervical cancer is preventable, 100% preventable. And one of the ways to prevent these deaths relating to cervical cancer is to get the HPV vaccine. So a lot of parents, I mean, it's not even only the HPV vaccine because parents have this misconception about vaccines in general. But I would encourage them to just let the children take this vaccine because for cervical cancer, it would be one less cancer to worry about. One big one is that, people that test positive for HPV have been promiscuous, they've been intimate with too many people. And that's not necessarily true because you can just have an encounter with one person and then that's it. Or you could even be with one person and that's it. So that's a big misconception. Just because that person is positive for HPV doesn't mean that they've just been doing anything with anyone. Another big one is, oh, if my partner uses protection, I won't catch HPV, but that's not true. HPV can be caught even in the weirdest ways, so to speak. So just make sure that you're protecting yourself and you're protected. And then for children, a big misconception is, I think we mentioned that earlier, about infertility. It hasn't been proven yet. I say it again, it hasn't been proven yet. So why not just protect your child? Why not just protect, just protect the next generation, so to speak, from contracting cervical cancer? Another big misconception is a lot of women think, oh, I've gotten the vaccine, I've gotten the HPV vaccine, I don't need to be screened anymore. No, you still need to be screened. I said earlier that the human papillomavirus has an incubation period of 5 to 10 years. You never know what can happen within 5 to 10 years. So even if you have gotten the vaccine, you still need to be getting screened regularly.
So Tewa, we've been hearing about cervical cancer, how it is deadly, how it affects most women in Nigeria, and how it does not even have a cure. But there is a virus that is responsible for cervical cancer. What is this virus?
Okay, so let's not say most women. It's just that it kills one woman every hour. So it's not affecting most women. There are different strains of HPV virus, and the HPV is the primary cause of cervical cancer. HPV is human papillomavirus, and human papillomavirus lives harmless in men. But when certain strains get into the women, that's when abnormal cells now start growing in the cervix. Now, we're talking about the fact that a lot of deaths are occurring due to cervical cancer, and the reason is because cervical cancer, which can be detected early, is not being detected. There's also this big cultural thing about, God forbid, it can never happen to me. But HPV causes cervical cancer, and for cervical cancer deaths to reduce, people need to know more about HPV, get tested, and screened for cervical cancer.
Thank you for that explanation. So let's make it very, very practical. What exactly is going on in a woman's body when she has HPV?
The big thing about HPV is it doesn't show any symptoms. So people can be carrying on about their business without knowing anything is going on. But if they are being screened regularly, if abnormal cells starts to grow within the cervix, because they're being screened regularly, it will be caught. And they don't have to go through the process of the abnormal cells now becoming cancer. And it's very, very important to state this as well, that I feel like cervical cancer is a nice form of cancer. And people always look at me, funny that, why do you say that? I say that because it's one of the few cancers that has an abnormal cell growth before it becomes full-blown cancer. So if people are being screened regularly, so a woman comes in contact with someone that has HPV, she's somebody that is aware of her body and goes for her medical checkups as regularly as possible. They do a screening, they find abnormal cells growing. It can be treated before it becomes full-blown cancer. But a lot of people don't know that, and they think that, oh, once it's cancer, it's cancer. No. That's why I say that cervical cancer is a nice form of cancer. So HPV doesn't show any symptoms. You just have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself by getting screened as regularly as possible for it to be caught.
Thank you. So where does the vaccination come in?
So the vaccination comes in for children, especially between the ages of 9 to 14. And the reason we said 9 to 14 is because at that age, the young girls are not meant to be intimate with anyone yet. So the system is still fresh. They haven't contacted anything, skin to skin or whatever. So when the vaccine is introduced into the children, they're protected. And then as adults, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm already an adult, I've been intimate, I don't need to get the vaccine. I will tell you that I have gotten the vaccine even after having 2 children. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be getting screened. It still means that I still need to be screened. But the big thing is, if it's a preventative method, go for it. And the reason older ladies who've already gotten the vaccine needs to be screened is because cervical cancer has an incubation period of about 10 years. That's another thing about cervical cancer being a nice cancer. Before it becomes full-blown cancer, there's almost 10 years, let's say 5 to 10 years incubation period. Once you're getting screened regularly, they can catch something. Now, if you're a woman who has been intimate, even if you've only been intimate once ever, you still need to be screened. even when you've gotten the vaccine, because of that incubation period. It might not happen in year 1, year 2, year 5, it might happen in year 10. That's why we're encouraging that even though you've gotten the vaccine, you still need to be screened.
Thank you very much, Tewa. Now we've established that it is important to vaccinate girls between ages 9 to 14. And I can imagine that there's a parent out there saying, why would I want to vaccinate my 9-year-old daughter? She does not know anything. She goes to school, she faces her studies, she comes back, she plays with her schoolmates, plays with the neighbor's children. She does not have any reason to take the vaccine at this age. It is still too young, and she does not even know anything. How do you explain to parents why it is important to vaccinate girls between ages 9 to 14?
Right. I would say it's extremely important for parents to get their children vaccinated, especially the girls. Reason being, you never know, anything can happen. Yes, we are not encouraging girls to be promiscuous. We're not encouraging them to do anything they're not supposed to do at whatever young age. But we can't control what happens outside our sphere, so to speak. What we can see is what we're seeing immediately when the children are in front of us. But we don't know what happens when they go to school. We don't know what happens when they go to other people's houses. They could be exposed to things that ordinarily within your sphere, they won't be affected by it. So it just only makes sense for them to get vaccinated against this thing. I'm going to ask the parents, when your child was young, when the child was a baby, did you not get them vaccinated against the different things that, that were being talked about? Tuberculosis, cholera, or sorry, my children are 21 and 18. I can't remember all the different vaccines at that age. But as babies, we were advised to vaccinate them against the different things that were happening just to prevent them. It's a preventative method. And like I said, I'm a real life example of someone who has been vaccinated, whose daughter has also been vaccinated, and son has also been vaccinated, and nothing's happened. So it's one less cancer to worry about. And you never know what happens with our children. So it's better to be safe than sorry.
Thank you for that. Now, another parent might be wondering, my daughter is no longer 14. Has she passed the age to receive the vaccination? And what about my boy child too? Should he get the vaccination as well?
Great question. Even if your daughter is 14, she can still get the vaccine. Even if she's 20, even if she's 30, she can still get the vaccine. The only thing is, at the young age, because they have not been exposed to intimacy, the vaccines work better. And at that age, they're only meant to take two shots of the vaccines. But when they're older and they've been exposed, they can take 3 shots, but they still need to be screened. So the good thing about screening the children between the ages of 9 to 14 is that they don't necessarily need to be screened anymore for cervical cancer because they've already had that preventative method. But if they're older and they've been exposed to intimacy, they need to get the vaccine plus get screened.
Now let's talk about the vaccination itself. Based on the cases you've come across, how preventable is cervical cancer when girls get vaccinated and go for regular checks?
It's almost 100% preventable. Yes, we still advise for the screening to be done, and that's only because, remember I said earlier that there are different strains of the HPV virus, and the vaccines only have a certain strain that they're preventing. So it's a huge benefit for them to get the vaccine but still be getting screened, because at least we know that some strains of HPVs are being prevented.
Thank you. And I'm sure you've heard so much about parents saying, oh, will this vaccine cause my child to have fertility issues? Will it affect her cycle? Will it affect her eggs? What have you observed or learned from those who have been vaccinated? Are there long-term side effects?
So, as with everything, there are some side effects. And all these long-term effects haven't been proven yet. So we don't know. Bearing in mind that the vaccines only came out a few years ago. So there's still ongoing research about it. There's still ongoing research about almost everything. But we can't say because we don't have the full 100% proof, not now go for it, or not now raise awareness of the different things that are available to stop cervical cancer. I feel like one woman dying every hour of cervical cancer is unacceptable, especially if there are methods for it to be prevented.
Thank you. Are there any stories or examples from girls or families you've met that illustrate the importance of prevention?
So many stories. I'm a cervical cancer prevention advocate. Exquisite Magazine's cervical cancer awareness program has been going on for so many years, and we've seen different things come in and out. We've seen women who have not had relations, maybe probably just once, and then by the time they come to a free screening session, they have abnormal cells growing, and they're thinking, how is it possible? I did it in 2000 and God knows when. But the thing is, there's an incubation period for cervical cancer, and if you're not getting screened regularly and there are abnormal cells growing, that means you caught a strain of HPV that wasn't, that didn't agree, so to speak, with your cervix. So there's been a lot of women who have, just unknowing to them, just gone for an event and did a screening and then seen that there are abnormal cells growing. Now, it's very, very important to stress that abnormal cells growing doesn't mean it's cervical cancer. I'll say that again. Abnormal cells growing doesn't mean it's cervical cancer. Abnormal cells are growing because the cells in the cervix are replicating at an abnormal rate, and that can be treated. And all you have to do is just continue going for regular screening. Another thing we've had is a case of a teenager getting cervical cancer. I think she was 17 at that time. And we're thinking, how is it possible that a 17-year-old has cervical cancer? And the reason was, we later found out that when she was very, very much younger, she was being abused. She never told anybody. She didn't even understand what was going on. But a few years later, when she was 17, she had full-blown cervical cancer. Who would have thought that? This is part of why we're saying to parents that you never know. We don't pray for that, but you never know. Anything can happen. Just get your children vaccinated. Another example, or another thing that we've seen is women who have just been living their lives not knowing anything is going on with them, and then they come to an event or they come to a free screening and they see that something is going on with their cervix. The big thing is that cervical cancer is preventable. Just get your screening done regularly. And depending on the type of screening you do, screening service you do, you can either be doing it every year or every 3 years or every 5 years. Every year is using the VIA method. VIA is visual inspection using acetic acid, where they put a liquid into the cervix and see if there are any abnormal changes. Those ones we do, you have to get screened every year because it's not 100% accurate, but to an extent, it's accurate to a point where we can say, okay, go for a second opinion or go for a second check. Now, every 3 years is the pap smear, which is the biggest one, and everybody knows about the pap smear. And I get excited talking about the pap smear because with that, they can go into the cervix, take samples of the cervix, now take it to the lab to examine it, to see what's going on that cervix. Are abnormal cells growing, or is it a healthy cervix? And that one you can do every 3 years up until the age of 45 or something. And then after then you can now do longer years, because obviously after the age of 45, really and truly, what could be happening? But then again, you never know. And then every 5 years is another one called cytology. And that one is a little bit more, yes, all the tests are invasive, but it's a little bit more intense. And because of the intensity of it, you don't need to go every year or every 3 years. You can go every 5 years. Now, I say this, a lot of people think that, oh, they're going into my cervix, it's very uncomfortable. I say, what is 5 minutes of discomfort compared to now knowing that the person has cervical cancer many years down the line? You judge.
That was actually very, very enlightening. And now this is the question that we have. You've established at the start that miseducation, ignorance is one of the reasons why most women don't know about cervical cancer. So how does early education about cervical cancer and HPV make a difference in protecting our young girls?
If people know that, okay, these kind of cancers can occur when XYZ happens, then they will be more aware of themselves and do things to prevent it. A big thing about anything is the awareness, but a lot of people don't even know about it. So if they don't know about it, how will they know that there's screenings going on for it? How will they know that there's HPV vaccines that could be taken for it? Awareness is key. And I would also say we have an acronym that we say at the EMAC Foundation. So the color for cervical cancer is teal, and teal is teal. And we've done the acronym of teal to mean tell every awesome lady. about cervical cancer. So we need to be our sisters' keepers as well. Tell everybody about cervical cancer. Ask questions. I mean, I got into cervical cancer prevention because many years ago when I started coming to Nigeria, I was telling someone that I was telling a friend of mine. I mean, we both had children at that time. I think it was maybe 2008 or 2009. We were talking and I said to her that I need to go back to England because they've sent me a letter to come and do my pap smear. And she was looking at me blank. I'm talking about us being in our 30s. She was looking at me like she didn't know what I was talking about. And I was like, what, you don't do pap smears here? Nobody does that. And then I began to think to myself, okay, so why is it that in England, they would call you, they would send you a letter to say you're due for your test. And if you don't go, they would call you to say, then I realized that it was very, very important and very, very key to do that screening so that deaths relating to cervical cancer can be prevented. Now, if we can prevent deaths relating to cervical cancer, what more is there? One woman dying every hour is unacceptable for a form of cancer that is preventable. So you do the math.
Tewa, we've been talking about cervical cancer. What are the signs or symptoms that a lady has cervical cancer?
Do you know why I'm laughing? I'm laughing because cervical cancer doesn't present any symptoms until it becomes full-blown cancer. I said earlier that I feel like cervical cancer is nice to women because it actually says, I'm coming with the pre-cancer cells or abnormal cells growing. So there are no symptoms until it becomes cancer. Now I'm going to mention some symptoms and I don't want people to run away and think, because I have this, because I have that, it might be cervical cancer. No, get tested. Let a doctor see you before you decide you have XYZ. Now, some of the symptoms that do come up when it has become cervical cancer is discharge. Now, we have normal discharges and then we have discharges that are not normal. So when it becomes a little bit foul, this is not to say that you have it, but just have yourself checked. Yeah, when you start to have pain during intimacy, then you need to start wondering what's going on. When you start to bleed in between your periods, so you've had your normal period and then, a few weeks later, you're bleeding again, have yourself checked. I'm saying this again so that you understand me, that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's cervical cancer, but it could mean something. So have yourself checked.
So for every woman who is listening, who is watching, what are your final words to her?
To every woman out there, my sisters, I would say to you to be aware of your body. Know your body. If anything is not the way it used to be, get yourself checked. Do all the screening procedures. And I say all because we tend to say, I'll do this one later or I'll do that one later. Get screened. You never know. And I always say this as well, that all the money we're making, we don't only want to look good on the outside. We want to look good. We want to feel good on the inside as well. So my final word would be just, get yourself checked. Prevention is better than cure. So I've been having a great conversation with BellaNaija, women, my sisters, and men as well. Men that have sisters, that have wives, that have, children. Let's get our health in check. Protect yourself, protect your health. Get screened, get vaccinated, because cervical cancer is preventable. And the conversation doesn't end here. Follow the conversation on BellaNaija using the hashtag StopHPV for her for more information.